In retrospect and in preparation for this, receiving this honor, I thought about what that sort of represented in terms of my life and my career and my profession, and I realized that it became a recurring theme in my educational and professional life. Little fish going to a big pond, and then finding her way out of that pond into the next biggest pond, and then into the ocean, and so on and so forth. So even though it was terrifying to come here on the first day of school, I do have to extend thanks to this district, my classmates, and my teachers for not only presenting me with the challenge of trying to make my high school career a success, but also guiding me through it. For me, the path from where you're sitting today to me standing here now was very direct. In the first grade, I wrote in my, all about me, student of the week, poster book, whatever it was, that I wanted to be a lawyer. And every step from that point forward was to get me to that goal. I don't even think I knew what a lawyer was. We didn't have any lawyers in my family. I don't know where a 6-year-old gets the idea to be a lawyer, but I apparently did. And I basically never looked back. From that point forward, each step I took was to get me to the next step of becoming a lawyer. I knew what I needed to do in high school to get good grades and to get into a good college, and I did that. I knew what I needed to do in college to get good grades and to get into law school, and I did that. I got into law school, and for the most part, and I'll get into that a little bit more, I knew what I needed to do to graduate, take the California bar exam, pass on the first try, which is less than 30% of the people I know, and get a job and actually practice law. Once I started practicing, I started off with a smaller law firm, 10 attorneys, and now I am the youngest equity partner in a 400 attorney firm with 30 offices nationally. I have, as that picture showed, I have litigated cases abroad in Ireland, and I've had an opportunity to represent huge companies in big litigation where the stories end up on the news, stories end up on the Today Show and Good Morning America, and I have been fortunate professionally to be part of the teams that represent those clients.
And you know that saying where they ask, where do you see yourself in 10 years? If someone would have asked me, like, would you be in New York City? After that year of leadership, that first year, I would have been like, abso-freaking-lutely, yes, I'm gonna make it to New York City. So before I got there, I had a lot of uncomfortable, discouraging things. I was the odd kid, I was the only gay one in school. And everyone, can be mean and harmful and all that kind of stuff, but you have to keep powering through knowing that something is better for you, something is better out there. And there's this quote that I've always loved and liked because it meant something to me, and I think it can to most people, is people may hate you for being different, but deep down, they wish they had the courage to do the same. And that simple quote kept my head above. It kept my eyes forward, and it kept me driving to do something bigger, something better, and something more me. So one week after school ended, I packed up my crappy little car with all my art supplies, and I drove to LA, where I went to fashion school. So after a year of odd fashion jobs, I kind of got a job at MAC Cosmetics, which was the coolest place at the time to get a makeup job. Being a makeup artist wasn't really a career or thing yet. And people weren't as into makeup as they are now. I mean, Euphoria has changed the face of every girl probably here. People wear rhinestones in public now, and I don't have to be the one to encourage it. It's kind of amazing. So I finally graduated college, and I was ready to pack my 2 little suitcases, and I wanted to give New York City a try. So I moved to New York. I went straight to every MAC counter that existed. I applied. I luckily got a job. After about 6 years of working for MAC, I wanted to do more. I knew that I could do more. I knew that I was, above and beyond a makeup counter. And so I reached out on Instagram, on Facebook, on internet, on anything I could. Models.com at the time was the only thing, to anyone who owned a camera, and I wanted to test. I wanted to just make beauty, make art, and continue working and doing that and getting my work out there. And eventually that led to a new music group that Atlantic Records was about to put out, and I did a test shoot which is where you work for free, but this one I luckily got paid $50 whole US dollars to do makeup. And it turns out that it was Icona Pop, and their song, I Don't Care, I Love It, was coming out the next week, and it exploded like wildfire. So that job took me all over with them, and it kind of established me in this career as doing makeup for celebrities. Next came a call from Atlantic Records being like, wait, we got a new artist for you. Are you available? Her name's Charlie XCX, and she's about to come out with a song called Fancy. No one's ever heard of it, and then that went wild. So that song, that artist took me all over the world, from China to Bali, China 7 times. Going to China 7 times in 1 year, don't recommend it, but the paycheck is nice. And that just led to more and more things. It kind of snowballed from there. So from that, I kept hustling, kept driving forward, and I happened to go to a party with Charlie once, like a Grammy party, and we met this new artist that was coming out. Her name happened to be Dua Lipa, and they were like, hey, you should meet Dua. And I was, you know, little hustler Colby was like, I should probably do your makeup sometime. And then sure enough, a week later, I'm flying on a private jet with Dua Lipa, doing her makeup. So that all kind of worked out, and that's kind of how it just spiraled that. And I became a makeup artist for all the musicians that we listen to today, which is really cool. So working with Tovlo, Zara Larsson, Billie Eilish, and I even landed a frickin' Spice Girl. The funny thing about all of this is that the world is so big, and there's a place for every single person in it. And my biggest fear is that you would let your current surroundings stop you or sabotage you from your actual true potential. So don't listen to what people say, don't listen to what people have opinions about you, just stick true to you and keep doing it. Because if I didn't do that, who knows, I'd probably just still be a fan of Billie Eilish and not actually doing her makeup.
I was gonna be a stockbroker. I was gonna make $1 million by the time I was 25. I was gonna move to New York with my aunt and uncle, and I was dead set on doing that. And then something happened, and I had a conversation with my dad, and he said, why don't you invest in people's lives instead of their money? And I was like, wow, Dad, that's really profound for an old guy. And I was like, wow, and it sunk in, and he said I wouldn't appreciate him until after he's gone, and he was right. He was, that philosophy of what he taught me, I didn't appreciate fully until after he was gone. I actually became a teacher, and 2 weeks in becoming a teacher, my father passed away. And he patted me on the head and said, my son the teacher, and he was really proud of me, and that was probably the most endearing moment in my life. Raise your hand. How many of you know what you want to do when you graduate? Good. How many of you have no clue? It's okay. It's all right. How many of you think you do, but you're really scared to raise your hand? I was not the best student. I did not like to read. I was highly allergic to books as a young child. Thank you for laughing. I got C's and B's. The idea of becoming a teacher was crazy to me. I had to learn eventually that I shouldn't compare myself to others. I had to learn that I didn't have to be perfect, I just need to be authentic. And I had to be me. And so I started out on this crazy path to become a teacher, and I taught here at Liberty High School for 7 years. And I loved it. I taught government economics, I taught US history, USAP. I ran this crazy intern program where I sent students out into the community and they worked for businesses for free and learned some job skills. Some of them have gone on to do that. In fact, I was in a hospital room one time and the nurse that walked in was one of my students, and I was like, oh, thank God you were a really great student. So, I was really thankful for that. I had no intention of doing those things, and I fell in love with this community as a result of going through that. And any Loma Vista alumni in here? Yes, awesome. Once a leopard, always a leopard. 2, cool. It was probably my favorite job ever, was being a principal of a school. It was fun to have the excitement of elementary students. It was fun to see them learning and growing. It was great to be able to support teachers, and most of all for me, it was a job where I got to be tall. Thank you. Because in high school, I was looking up at students saying, you need to turn in your work. And in elementary school, little kindergartners looking at me going, you're so big. And I'm like, yes, I am. It's a total lie. No, I'm not. So, but it was good. I love being a principal. I love what I do today. One of the things I get to do today is I get to work with counselors, and I get to support our nurses. And I had no idea that in the work that we've been doing for the past 5 years that then we'd have a pandemic and they would be so needed, so critical. And so I'm proud to be able to work with them. And I learned working together here at Liberty. I was in leadership, I was class treasurer, and I was on the wrestling team, and I learned about working with one another and building those relationships and that we're stronger together. And those are the skills that I learned while I was a student at Liberty, and I never thought that I would be applying them later to life. I didn't know the impact that they were having on me. So one of my challenges to you as you're writing your own story is to stop and think about the things that you're learning today that you may not think that they apply, but they do. They really, really do. And the way you are learning how to interact with one another, the way you're learning how to work with one another is so important, because you're never going to work in isolation. You're always going to work with others.